In this study, we're going to go through the book of Galatians together. In this first video, just going to give you an introduction to the study overall. So Galatians has 6 chapters, and we've designed these short videos to be done in 6 weeks. So 1 chapter a week, basically. And here's your homework. What you should do, the best way to get the most out of this study is for every person to read the chapter that you're going to study on your own before you get to the group, and then study it together as a group using these videos. And then afterward, make sure you go back and read it again, because I think that's the best way for you to get the most out of it. So for example, today, if you haven't read chapter 1, that's okay. But once we've gone through these videos for today, make sure that afterward you go through it and read chapter 1 on your own again, make some of your own notes, and then read chapter 2 for next week. Now, the videos are meant to inform and then spark discussion. That's it. So these videos are 3 to 5 minute videos, and the whole goal is to really lead you through the content, to inform you, make sure that you're teed up for a great conversation in your small group. All right, so let's get into Galatians. We're going to be using the ESV Study Bible. You can pick that up at Amazon for Kindle for about $10. It's a great little study Bible. We'll be using that as one of our tools. And in that study Bible, they suggest that it's probably written around AD 48. Now, there's a little bit of question as to when this was written, but they add a nice little chart in there so you can see the death, resurrection of Christ about AD 30, Paul's conversions about 33, 34 AD, and a couple of visits to Jerusalem. And we see that Paul writes the letter to the Galatians, according to the study Bible, in about AD 48. So that is sandwiched in between Paul's first missionary journey, when he went around and started to share the gospel, and he made it to Galatia as one of the regions that got to meet him and hear him. So he started the church in Galatia, and we see that in about AD 48. Now, Paul's third Jerusalem visit happened after his first missionary journey, and that stuff is recorded in Acts chapter 15. So if you want to get a little context, we're right around Acts chapter 11. Right after that, that is when Paul writes the letter to Galatians, probably between Acts chapter 11 and Acts chapter 15. Now here's a little map of Paul's first missionary journey, just to give you a visual of what we're talking about here. And so this is Galatia up here toward the top of the map, and there's Jerusalem there. And so this is the Mediterranean Sea. This is Paul's first missionary journey. He will have had 3 missionary journeys before the end of his life. And again, you could see the study Bible for more of those maps if you're interested. But here's the theme of the book. Paul writes this letter to the Galatians, to that church in Galatia, to all the churches in that region, to tell them about freedom that they have in Christ. It's really important. He's expressing the fundamental doctrine of Christianity, that we have freedom in Christ because of what Jesus did on the cross and not because of what we have done. Now, we're going to talk more about that as we go through the study, but that's the big idea of the whole book of Galatians. Remember, Galatians was a letter that was written to a bunch of Christians that really were pretty new Christians, and he wanted to make sure they understood that fundamental doctrine. It's important for us today to understand it as well. Here's a great theme verse from Galatians chapter 5, and we'll get to this in week 5, but we'll get a little sneak preview for right now. He writes this: "For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery." And so if you want to memorize a verse, that's a great one to memorize. So we're going to be talking about freedom, and the opposite of freedom is works, is legalism, bondage. So why don't you, before you go on to the next video, hit pause, talk a little bit as a group, describe or give an example of legalism in your own life, maybe in your past, or maybe in the church that you've been a part of. And we'll see you in the next video.